Welcome back, Bottle Killers. I've got a new announcement, new name for the channel, Isla whiskyreviews.com. It seems like we're always going back to Isla nowadays. And so maybe Isla Whiskey Reviews, do you think it's catchy enough?
We've been doing a lot of Isla.
It is. Well, if you don't know, it's your host, Michael Roche. And as always, we have the often imitated, never duplicated, the real Boschster himself. It's the real Bottle Killer, ladies and gentlemen. Say hello.
Back with a Bosch. Here we are. How are we doing, people? Thank you for joining us.
So why do you think people are so interested in Isla whiskies?
Because it's amazing. I don't know. It's one of them for me. Like, it kind of just caught on real quick and just started to dominate my collection. And it seems to be popular. You know, the most watched videos that we've done are all Isla whiskies. So here we are back once again.
Because for me, it was very simple. It was because that was the second whiskey tour we did. We went the first one to Speyside, we went the second one and third one to Isla, and Isla was just such a more interesting experience, and I just think just a really eye-opening experience whiskey wise. So that's why I've got the faithfulness to Isla, or that love for Isla. For you, it was like even before you'd even visited, because that's why we went. It was because you arranged it.
Yeah.
It was you picked up Isla straight away and really started to love it early in your journey.
Yeah, I think you kind of need to have an appreciation and a taste for peat before you visit Isla. Like some of the guys that came along with us, they're not massively into peated whiskey, and even going to Isla didn't change that for them. But I love it. Like, you know, it's for me, it's here to stay.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, it was Dave, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really struggled with it. He bought the interestingly he only bought one bottle there, which was the Troubadour at the Boonharben. I remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what we're doing today is we're going to do a Laphroaig special.
Yep.
A little Laphroaig drink through, a little Laphroaig comparison. We've got 3 10-year-olds.
Yep.
So we're going to do 30 years of Laphroaig
That's the one.
in, hopefully, less than 30 minutes.
Yeah, we'll try.
So Laphroaig became number 2 in our Isla Power rankings recently. Tell me, you know, what's your you rated it number 2 out of all the Isla distilleries.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Well, I think it's. I said on the Isla rankings, I think Laphroaig's having a really good year. You know, some of the things that they've done, bringing the 18-year-old back was an absolute masterstroke. You know, absolutely love that one. Again, if you want to go back through the channel, it's a really good review. If you're considering buying a bottle, you'll find out everything that you need to know about it there. But I just think for me, like Laphroaig, it's the uniqueness that it brings, and when you really get into, like, you know, people call it like peat heads, peat monsters, and you've just got that hankering for something really peaty, really smoky. There isn't really anything that compares to Laphroaig. That's what it brings. I think it's the most powerfully peated Isla whiskey.
I remember. Do you know, we won't mention him, but we've got like a mutual friend, and when you first started getting into whiskey, I remember going for a beer with him, and he goes, oh, he's into all that whiskey shit. It's effing TCP, if you ask me. Which he was obviously talking about Laphroaig, because that gives you it is the TCP when you first encounter Laphroaig. But then if you stick with it, you really learn to love it and the layers of it. And actually, it's one of those for me where I think it may be the one that works best with my palate. There's something really alluring about Laphroaig that I've always loved ever since my way earlier in the whiskey journey.
Yeah, it's kind of addictive as well, because it is so kind of like different with the, you know, the medicinal notes that you've mentioned there. And I find that when I start drinking Laphroaig, I go down like an absolute Laphroaig rabbit hole. Like I've got, I don't know if you can see the shelves in the background, but I've got probably 11 bottles of Laphroaig on the shelves there. Obviously, we're going to be drinking 3 of the 10-year-old versions today. But I'll find if I like just dip my toe in with like Law, I love the Law, like the quarter cask. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, let's try the 16-year-old. Let's do the 10-year-old Cherry Oak. Oh, let's have a bit of the 18-year-old. And then, like, week, 2 weeks, I'm like, I've just drank nothing but Laphroaig.
So when you count the Cadaris releases, Laphroaig, you've got a lot of options at the moment. If you go on the Laphroaig website, you've got an abundance of options.
Yeah.
And what we went with today was just the 10-year-old options
Yeah.
that they have readily available, which is the standard 10 you'll find in any sort of supermarket.
Yep.
In America, ubiquitous as well. We've got the 10-year-old Cask Strength, which is, what's the alcohol percentage of this?
So this is batch 13 of the 10-year-old Cask Strength. So they're released in batches annually. I think they're up to about number 17 now. So this is a slightly older one. The one that we've got today, batch 13, is 57.9%.
Yeah, so one of the complaints about Laphroaig 10, people like it, they say that they don't like the fact that it's bottled at 40%.
Yeah.
That's the biggest beef that people have. So this is 57. So it's like you do like Laphroaig, but it's Laphroaig for the purists.
Yeah.
I've actually not tried the batch strength version, I don't think.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to try this. And then we've also got the 10-year-old, which has been finished in sherry. Is it sherry butts? Butts or?
Yeah, I'd imagine it's sherry butts.
So I'm really excited about this. If for the 3 people that are our regular viewers, then they know that I'm really going through my sherry phase right now.
Yeah.
It's my sherry era. Like Taylor Swift has the Eras tour. I'm in my sherry era, and so I've never tried the sherry wood finish Laphroaig 10, and I can't wait. What's the percentage on that?
So the 10-year-old sherry oak is 48%.
Oh, nice. So they've gone legit with it.
Yeah, and it's Oloroso sherry as well. So that's my favourite type of sherry. I think, our minds were maybe changed a little bit when we did the Deanston drink through, because the Fino sherry cask there was just absolutely incredible.
Well, that's what changed my sherry journey.
100%.
Single-handedly.
The most common sherries that you'll see in any kind of cask finish is PX, which is more to the sweeter side, Oloroso, which is more drier. Both of them are going to bring out some lovely dark fruit kind of notes. For me personally, I much prefer the dry Oloroso, so I'm glad that that's the cask finish that Laphroaig went with for the 10-year-old sherry oak.
And someone asked us recently, and we're saying, like, we don't really prepare too much for the episodes, and the reason we don't is because we want the reactions to be organic.
Yeah.
And so this is one that's actually got me excited, because we've had some fantastic Laphroaigs recently. The 18-year-old was the ruler's back. We said, we really enjoyed the 18-year-old. And so the batch strength, or the cask strength,
Yeah.
Laphroaig 10 and the sherry, I can't wait to try. I cannot wait to try. So what we're going to do first is let's hit the 10-year-old. This is the one just to sort of set the palate, because Laphroaig is so unique. It's going to be different to what you were drinking before. It may take a little bit of adjustment period, and then we can fully enjoy the second and third offerings that we've got. So just tell me, Jay, what hit the nose? What are you getting first of all?
So I think this is I'd describe it as a clean kind of nose. It's got a lot of freshness to it, so it does give me some of those grassy notes. But where I often, I sort of think there's different categories of peat. So you'll get your maritime peat, you get your medicinal, you get your earthy kind of peat, and Laphroaig is typically more associated with the medicinal style of peat. On the nose for this one, I do find it to be more sort of leaning towards the maritime. It's got a bit of saltiness to it, that kind of fresh sea breeze. Like you can picture yourself being on the south coast of Islay, just outside the distillery, like the waves are just crashing against the rocks, and you've got that lovely saltiness coming through. It's bourbon cask maturation as well, so you do get some of that sweetness, that vanilla. But yeah, it's a really lovely kind of fresh citrus fruits as well. Bit of lemon in there.
That's exactly what I'm getting is the description you got. It kind of took me to being at Laphroaig, and you sit on those little benches. They have little pub garden benches outside the distillery, and you look out over a loch, or what is it, a lake, a loch? I don't know what it is, but whatever that sits on, it's I'm there already, and I'm getting that. It's taking me there. It's like a time travel.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you want, isn't it? That like when you're nosing a whiskey, tasting a whiskey, it's taking you to places, it's bringing out memories, and certainly fond memories of the visit that we had to the Laphroaig distillery. Looking forward to going back there in the future.
And interestingly enough, that we poured these about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So it's had a lot of time to get the air to interact with it. It actually really does remind me of the old Pulteney, which you wouldn't think, because you think Laphroaig you would totally be like, it would be totally on its own. But actually, it's got a lot of the old Pulteney character to it. It's just, it's only on like the back end of the nose that you're getting the sort of the medicinal note there.
Yeah.
All of it is maritime at the front.
Definitely, like that's why I called it out as like it's not as strikingly medicinal as what you would typically associate with Laphroaig. Maybe that's because it's kind of toned down, bottled at the 40%. But yeah, it's definitely got that maritime character to it.
But then I just tried it.
Oh yeah,
It's all medicinal note right there. You can't. That's unmistakable.
yeah. Iodine, TCP.
Mm.
Yeah.
Why does Laphroaig have such a unique footprint?
In terms of the flavour.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. Like, I think every distillery's got its kind of own character to the distillate, and obviously, like you're thinking, it's a small area where you've got Lagavulin, Laphroaig, Ardbeg.
Yeah.
They're not too far. Like you could probably you could probably walk between the three of them relatively easily, but they must be using
I'm
like
sure about that, but
different types of peat, which is giving it the character. I think it's going to be the character of the distillate as well, the way that they distill it, the fermentation, what they're doing in the washbacks, how they're creating the mash. But yeah, I guess they just like, this is what they wanted to create, and they've stuck with it for, hundreds of years.
And what is the story? Was it Lagavulin for a while tried to recreate the Laphroaig taste?
Yeah, I think
then they really went down or was it Laphroaig trying to recreate Lagavulin?
There was
his brothers, wasn't it?
there was a bit of there was definitely like a bit of
Hoo-ha.
beef between the two distilleries.
Like a kerfuffle.
They were like, Lagavulin was trying to stop Laphroaig's water source. I think Laphroaig came after Lagavulin and like gained a lot of popularity, so they like really didn't take too kindly to what Laphroaig were doing, and sort of started trying to mess around with it and get their custom back. But I'm sure we've been to Islay. They're all complimentary about each other. I'm sure they probably go and sit down in the boozer, have a pint together when they finished a shift at the distillery. So
what's really interesting when you think of the Lagavulin is obviously a Diageo owned company, and so that has the distribution around the world. That's a monster, Lagavulin. And just seeing from the small sampling of our channel, we are really surprised to see the Lagavulin Offerman do so well.
Yeah.
Right, the review of that, because people are obviously interested in Lagavulin, but Laphroaig I think is actually the most ubiquitous Islay whiskey. I think that sells the most.
Yeah, like globally, like
that particular bottle sells the most out of all of the Islay whiskies.
Yeah, certainly like the 10-year-old as well. Like you'll see it in Wetherspoons. Do you know what I mean? I can't remember seeing a bottle of Lagavulin 16 in Wetherspoons. You go to the States a lot as well. Like it's always there in the hotels, isn't it? Like so, it's really popular. It's got a great kind of global footprint, and I think as well, like going back to this one, I was introduced to Laphroaig by a friend, and I remember the first time that I tried it, I was like, oh, that's disgusting, like really didn't take to it. And then it was a few years later, so I actually got given a bottle of one of the very early batches of the Cask Strength, batch 4, and I was like, do you know what, I'm a lot further along in the whiskey journey now, I'll crack on, try it, and I absolutely loved it. And I think that's why, and I think we'll move on to the Cask Strength shortly, but I think that's for me is like why I'm so anchored to the Cask Strength. This is lovely. It's really good. In terms of the palate, we've not really touched upon that too much, but it's got a lovely sweetness to it. It's not to us, and I guess this is because we're more acclimatized to peat. Like we're warmed up. We shot an episode before this, so the palate's like, really kind of like ready for it. You can understand why a lot of people, if they've never tried this before, it's not something that I would, if you're just kind of looking to discover peat, it's not where I would recommend that you start. But when you've experienced peat smoke before, if you go to this, like, this is lovely. You'll be able to appreciate like the balance between the sweetness, the vanilla notes, like the caramels, the honeys, the fresh grassy, the citrus notes, the lemon peels, and that peat smoke as well, that medicinal peat smoke on the palate that I'm talking about now, really coming through. It's like walking through a hospital. Those smells, like, So
well, you're more of the type of person who's heading towards connoisseur level, whereas I'm more of like the admittedly I'm not a whiskey purist in the same way. So I will sometimes I'll grab a Johnny Walker Black,
Yeah.
put 50 centiliters in a glass, and put a little drop of ice in it.
Yeah.
Just to get that slight chill on it, and then enjoy drinking the strength of the drink. But the flavor's not. It's not a complex drink at all.
No.
I just like the strength of the drink itself, to give me the hit I need, sort of thing. Laphroaig is same. It's weirdly the Laphroaig 10 is really, really sippable for me as well. If I just want like a glass by myself, this is one that you can just sip away at and just really, really enjoy. I really find it so palatable. So when people say, "Oh, I can't," this is kind of like the final frontier, or this is a difficult one. For me, it's just such a delight.
Yeah.
I really find it interesting.
I'm watching the glass get low there. I'm like, you should. Right, he's done it, hasn't he? He's downed it. You're going to have to pour some more of that because you need to try it side by side with the Cask Strength.
Well, I've just done the sip, so we'll go straight into Cask Strength.
So we've tried the 10-year-old. We're now moving on to the Cask Strength. So what we can do here is get a contrast between the 10-year-old and the 10-year-old Cask Strength. Now, we're stepping up a lot here because this is 57.9%. So we're coming up from the 40% of the 10-year-old, moving right up into the like really heavy ABV, heavily peated Laphroaig now. So I don't think Michael's actually tried this before. So what I want to see is like
So just jumping in, just so we get my reactions in real time. What you've lost straight away is the maritime on the nose.
Definitely.
It's gone.
Yeah.
So, but you're getting way more Laphroaig. This is the Laphroaig I know and love straight away on the nose. So you've lost the maritime, you've lost the old pulpiness that I got on the 10-year-old, and now it's like stepping up to the big league. So the strength in the nose, you can feel the strength in the nose, which is weird, right? Because you think you could only do the strength on the taste.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So this is why I think like I'm such an advocate of the Cask Strength version, is because like it's so much more Laphroaig to me, so much more powerful. And like going back to the 10-year-old there, like there's characteristics of it that I love, like that maritime character, like the memories that it brings out. But this is like what I want from a Laphroaig. This like embodies the richness, the power of the peat smoke, and just the antiseptic medicinal flavors that are coming through from the nose, the spice. Like, this is a big step up.
So here's a new theory for you, because we were talking about it. We recently reviewed a couple of Port Charlottes, and they had definite characters on their noses. And we're comparing them the adultness, like the matureness of their characters, compared to when you get a lot of the younger 40% whiskies, you kind of always get the same notes: the honey, the vanillas, and all of the very similar tasting notes from whiskey to whiskey.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe that's the benefit of going for a Cask Strength whiskey, is actually then you start to get real character from the distillery, right? The distillery shines through. It's not just the what's the word, like the cookie cutter tasting notes.
Yeah, very generic, like what they're going for. I think the ironic thing here as well is that like one of the things that I've started experimenting more with recently is putting water into the whiskey. We don't do it enough. Like we've always got the little the water pot here with the droppers, and like we always just drink the whiskey and kind of forget. Like I certainly do. And it's kind of ironic that this is 57.9% ABV, so a couple of drops of water are not going to bring it down to the level, but we're going up to Cask Strength, and then we're putting a few drops in to like tone it down. But before I do that and just let that sit there and open up, I think that the difference in the palate of the Cask Strength compared to the standard 10-year-old is the 10-year-old does come across as a little bit thin. I think that's one of the negatives that I would say about it, and it's very easy to say because it's bottled at 40%. However, when I talk about what I'm looking for in a Laphroaig whiskey, immediately it's viscous, it's rich, it's oily. Like you can feel the difference in the mouth. That mouthfeel is completely different, and then it's just like it's engulfing, and you've got all these different flavors kind of like bouncing over your tongue. You've got the peat, you've got the spice. Again, that sweetness is not lost, but for me, it's just next level.
So in terms of flavors, I'll go back and I put some water in it, so we'll see what flavors that come out. But I'm not so much in terms of there's loads of flavors bouncing about, but what I do notice is that oiliness, that thickness. And I always describe it as, it makes me start rubbing my tongue on the roof of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I've started, when you were talking then, I could feel myself doing that, which is kind of it's always a sense of good viscosity.
Yeah, it's a good sign. Yeah, I think I've just added a couple, literally like 2 or 3 drops of water, and I am getting some like cereal notes coming through now. More of the malt kind of character. Again, like that medicinal antiseptic kind of peat just emanates from the glass. Like the nose is beautiful. I love this.
Do you know this is going to be a hot take, and it's actually fairly rudimentary. I'm not feeling like it's that overpowering in terms of the strength. It's very, very drinkable.
Yeah.
Too drinkable, if anything. But obviously we had the Laphroaig 18s a couple of weeks ago. Maybe that's why it's just a little bit. It's just a little bit boring, if anything. Or maybe it's because maybe the Sherry Cask next.
Yeah.
And the Sherry Cask is what I like, because you go through phases, right? And like I said, I'm obsessed with sherry right now. I'm kind of re-entered this like sherry and peat sort of phase. So maybe that's what my palate's yearning for. But a little bit like it's robust is what I would describe it as. But no, I don't think anyone makes a whiskey and think, I hope people say robust, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not the thing. But yeah, it's not as exciting as I hoped.
Yeah.
Maybe. But maybe it's too easy to drink. Maybe that's the thing.
I think you're right. I think when you try some of the older whiskies, and like we said, the 18, and we've drank some different distilleries, some older whiskies from them, and you do get that complexity. It's not as complex, is it? Like, it's kind of like 3-dimensional. It's got like 3 kind of distinct flavors to it. It's got like the sweetness, it's got the citrus, and it's got the smoke, really, like on the palate for me. It does have a really long finish, though. I've just literally let it settle. I've still got a little bit of this left, but I'm gonna go. Fuck.
So that's it. Thicker.
Thicker, yeah, thicker.
Do you need a moment?
No.
Do we need to get on the cutting room floor and edit it out? Are you good?
We'll leave that in.
True professional.
We'll leave that in.
True professional.
Leave that in.
Right, so on. But this is just a thicker version of that, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to upgraded Laphroaig 10, that's what you're getting. You're getting a Laphroaig 10. I think maybe I was over ambitious in thinking I was going to get like a different whiskey, but I just got a thicker Laphroaig 10, which is kind of makes sense because that's what it is. It's just more alcohol in the same thing, right?
Definitely.
Different, not a different cask finish. It's just a higher alcohol content.
Yeah. What do you prefer though?
That's no brainer. But I do miss the maritime note on the nose because you know I love the nose. Yeah. I love nosing whiskies. So the maritime note, and that actually took me there, and we didn't have it. So let's go sherry. This is the one that I'm most excited about. Yeah. And so,
I mean, you can see straight away. Like, look at the color of that. It's completely different.
That's like we described the whiskey recently like a flat cola, and that looks like a flat cola sort of color, doesn't it? Yeah. You know, it's like when you come down from a party in the morning and that's the people have left out like half drinking glasses of Coke. Yeah. That's what you see.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm smiling straight away because like the nose it's completely different to the first two, isn't it? You can really the sherry is really prominent here.
So it's classic sherry for me. So it must be that what my brain says is a classic sherry, like it must be Oloroso. Yeah. Because this is where I'm getting the Christmas cake notes. I'm getting straight away as the fruit cake and
fruit cake,
the richness
definitely.
of that. Yeah. So it's like so it must be Oloroso is like what from everyone's experienced different sherries at different times, but this would be my classic sherry. Is that when we went to Glenjoric and did the sherry masterclass is what I was introduced to as sherry.
Yeah. And do you know what, like I really went off sherry casks, and I've been, because of our sort of voyage of discovery this year of like reacquainting myself with it. I've been seeking them out. So there was a couple of Glen Scotias that I was drinking Friday, and I think one was PX, the other was Fino. I went back to the festival release that we also reviewed on the channel. And I think, yeah, Oloroso is probably still my favourite sherry. It's the classic quintessential Christmas cake, marzipan, dried fruits, pills.
Yeah, it's like it is the orange peel, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's lovely, and it's got that.
And the what do they call them? You know, when they have like, you know, you used to go to like your auntie's whatever, and they'd have like the like the dried flowers.
Potpourri.
Yeah, potpourri. Yeah. It's got the kind of potpourri to it.
Do you know what a really well selected Oloroso Sherry Cask always reminds me of? You know, like Anchorman, when he's like, my office is full of rich mahogany. It's just that like varnished wood, that like, you know, really kind of like dark varnished wood, syrupy kind of flavors. Like it just brings a smile to your face.
Well, we did the Deanson episode, and I may have been a little bit drunk, but I claimed that I was in my sherry era. Now I'd like to confirm that I'm in my sherry era, because it was this is wonderful.
Yeah, it is. And so I've got a question for you here, because I think I know what my answer is, but the nose.
Shoot.
How much smoke are you getting through on that nose? This is a Laphroaig bottled at 48%.
It's there. Yeah, I'm getting smoke.
I think it's so, like, on the nose. Certainly, I've not tasted.
So you keep your nose in that glass and you'll get it. So what you get is the Christmas cake.
Yeah.
The marzipan. You leave your nose in there, and actually, you're getting way more smoke than you are getting Christmas cake. It actually fades the Christmas cake, and it's more smoke. For me.
Yeah, and some licorice.
So this is all like. That's like almost like that. The glass has got smoke in it, and I'm inhaling it. That is smoky, very very smoky.
What do you think of this for one of your smoky old fashions?
Well, it's a. I don't know enough about molecular chemistry in cocktails. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what often it is. It's like people like I said. I'm quite a junior when it comes to. You know, I said you're more of a purist. I'm more of a junior when it comes to the sophistication of my taste buds. What cocktails are doing is that they're taking the taster notes and they're working them against each other, or elevating them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 in a cocktail. 1 + 1 could equal 11.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the magic of the cocktail and the mixology and the science of it. So I don't know if it would necessarily be a good idea unless it would be somebody that really knew what they're doing. But what someone would know from this is that it's a bourbon cask, so you know what a bourbon cask does, and it's got a medicinal note that you can really play with. Because you know that I do love a smoky old fashioned is one of my favorites. And interestingly enough, I had a cocktail in Liverpool, and it was a Japanese bourbon whiskey based cocktail, but they did something called a Laphroaig mist, where they got like a little atomizer,
I know,
and they sprayed it around it, and I did not like it. No, I didn't, because it told you it was Laphroaig, but then it delivered a bourbon cask without them. It was a weird experience. I really didn't. Not one I cared for, pretty much. So yeah, I think it's maybe I think there's going to be a cocktail episode that we do. Maybe we'll get Ian to come join us on that one, who is an expert, like Gordon Ramsay level of cocktails, and then maybe he can play around and make something good with it. That'd be a really interesting one. But yeah, I think for what it is right now, this is just a top level sherry whiskey.
I think coming back down from the Cask Strength, which was 57.9, and obviously we're warmed up, like we're well into our flow now. This is like our third drum on this episode. It's really kind of smooth, isn't it, when it hits you? Like, obviously, if we drank this first, we might have been like, ooh, hello. But right now, I'm feeling like 48% is like, it's working well. Again, on the palate, I get still the dark fruits from the sherry. Really reminds me of like Black Forest Gatto. Little dusting of maybe some cocoa powder on the top. And again, like, you know, go back to like those sticky kind of dates that you pull out after a meal at Christmas. But then the smoke becomes prominent as well. I get a lot more of the smoke coming through on the palate. I think that kind of tobacco that we talk about sometimes.
This is just deliciousness.
It is good, isn't it?
I hope people aren't expecting me to have any more notes than deliciousness, but it's just this is an absolute delight. This is exactly what, and I guess, do you think here's a question for you, which is a whiskey question. So if there's a bottle that's really rare and they do a release every year and you manage to snag one, like the Turbo,
Okay.
Glenallachie, do you like it more because there's a bias already, right?
Yeah.
I went into this thinking, I love sherry right now. I love Laphroaig. This is going to be the perfect harmony. And it is the perfect harmony.
Yeah.
I would actually drink this Laphroaig every time, actually.
Would you drink it over the Turbo? Because it wasn't too long ago that we were drinking that. It's doubly aged. Oloroso sherry.
Is the Turbo...
The Turbo
has it got a few different casks, though?
Yeah, Turbo's got a number of...
so
It's got
it's
Virgin Oak and sherry, and there's a number of different casks. I can't remember the exact, but there's like 5 of one and maybe like 2 or something of the other.
Yeah, this is because you can still what this gives you is like you've got the best of the bourbon, but right now for me bourbon's being a little bit boring, and you got the best of sherry.
Yeah.
And you've kind of got like a understated level of peat, and the reason the Turbo worked so well is because it wasn't overly peated. So if you love a little sizzle on your steak, that's what the Turbo gave you, didn't it? Because it was just like a little peat. It was 70 ppm.
Yeah.
But what was like the Hypernova?
Oh,
It's like 9 million ppm. It was ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
I was like
way in the hundreds somewhere.
So it's just like a little sizzle, with the salt on your steak, with the whatever, you put the spring in Springfield. It's just a little splattering. Wonderful. Absolutely
What I love about this one as well is that when I was talking about the nose, like for me, like it's definitely sherry forward on the nose, but on the palate, the balance works really well because you don't lose the Laphroaig character. You still get the medicinal flavors that you appreciate in a Laphroaig, but it's so well kind of counterbalanced by the richness of the sherry, the sweetness of the sherry, and they just work in like such a perfect harmony. Really lovely long finish, nice bit of spiciness, kind of clove coming through in the finish, lovely and long. A little bit nutty as well. I find it kind of like walnuts, like crushed walnuts in there. Lovely.
So say integrity malts, as they call them, right? So what is a non-integrity malt? Is like kind of the ones that people seem to dislike just off the base that they water them down to 40% and throw them into the supermarkets and throw them out into high volume, whereas a Springbank 10 is 46%.
Yeah.
Ardbeg 10 is 46%, and so the Laddie is 49, 50.
50, yeah.
Classic
I think
Laddie,
Ardbeg 10 might be 48, isn't it? Maybe. Or, yeah,
maybe we can maybe pop it up on the screen in the edit, but it's but yeah, it's they're what people call integrity malts, and they're like the core rangers that have like stuck to their guns and are trying to water this down. Anything above that, I think, is so anything above that is kind of integrity, right?
Yeah.
So anything above that, you could almost say like you're kind of playing with, right? It's kind of like ins and outs. If it's 48, if it's 50, if it's 52, that drinks so well at 48. I'm not even upset that that's higher alcohol percentage. It's not even a game that's even important to play, because that's so good at 48. This is just a delight.
You don't need to do anything with it. Like, didn't even think about putting water in that. I don't think it would add anything. In fact, like I'd be more worried about like, has it just taken away? Should I have just kept it at the 48%? Because I think it's just so good. It just doesn't need any messing around with.
So the real question is, has this changed your Isla power rankings?
No, still no. We've shot 2 episodes today. The first one that we did was with Brooke Laddie, looking at the Port Charlotte. We've done this as well. But I tell you what, like, I think we'll do the power rankings again next year. And the way things are at the moment, Laphroaig could be number 1 next year. But I think it's going to be very difficult for any of the other distilleries to knock those off the top 2 at the moment, because I just love what they're both doing. Love this. I hope that Laphroaig, the rumblings of like them altering the character and diluting the medicinalness down, doesn't come to fruition, because at the moment, like, it's very difficult to separate these as a top 2.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, we shot a Port Charlotte episode previous to this, and that's kind of like fended off. It's like, you know, when there's like a world championship fight, and like Floyd Mayweather, 11 rounds, he's just been like pinging the guy, and then 12th round, Marcus Medina is a dog, and he's like, I'm gonna get Floyd out of there. I'm gonna make sure there's a rematch, and he's dinging Mayweather running around everywhere. It's kind of like Port Charlotte did enough.
Yeah.
Like Mayweather in the 11th round to win on the judges' cards.
It's a point to win.
But that was a great late entry. That was a great Medina 12th round performance, because I am in love with that Sherry. And I'm so happy that it delivered on what I hoped it would, which is always the way. You know, because when you buy a bottle of whiskey, most of the times you were probably not. Maybe you've gone to a whiskey bar and sampled it. Most times you haven't sampled it. You're buying it raw. You're raw.
Oh
dog.
you are.
You're being raw dogged.
Yeah,
right?
you're kind of like thinking, what do I like? And this sounds like what I would like, and then you buy the whole bottle and you just hope it kind of like lives up to it.
Have you seen this trend online where like people take flights?
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not gonna watch the TV. I'm just gonna go map. No drinks.
I saw it.
I'm gonna
Like,
raw dog it. That's like most people are raw dogging whiskey.
Erling Haaland did it the other day, didn't he? Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Cracked me up, but it's mostly raw dogging. So it's like the you have hopes and dreams for these things. If you have passion, we sound like absolute losers right now, which we are. But you have to like, I want this to hit. It actually delivered, and it was just what the doctor ordered right now, and I think that's why I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the batch or the Cask Strength release. It just did what it said on the tin. This one was really the marriage they've got is wonderful. For me, it's an absolute buy. For you, it's take them through your 3.
Yeah, my top 3. Based on today, I would put the Sherry Oak number 1. I'd put the Cask Strength number 2, and of course, third place, but still a lovely dram, would be the standard 10-year-old.
Maybe the best nose of the day was a 10-year-old.
Yeah, that maritime note, like, you just can't beat it. But that's very, I think, something that we love.
Yeah.
But all 3 of them, incredibly drinkable. You know, there's not one that I would say is not a buy. There's not one that I'd be like, ugh, you know, I'd love to get, you know, love to just get through that one quickly.
Well, most of the time, you're finding that on Club Card deal for £30.
Yeah.
There's just no reason not to buy that as an experience. This one is usually actually you can if you type this into Google, you'll probably find somebody selling an old batch, £55. I think it retails for 70, 75.
In the 70s, isn't it? Yeah.
You always see this on sale when they're trying to get rid of old inventory. And then this one is I saw this is £65.
Yeah.
I saw this on, I sent you the link. It was £45 this week on
I mean,
I can't remember what the website was, because I would tell you guys whiskey shop.com.
Well, I think you'll be digging out the link to buy yourself a bottle.
But it's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, I think they're all relatively really well priced, really great. Because one thing about the Laphroaig 18 was £180. I think you bought that for, and people in the comments were slightly like sort of like, oh well, I don't know if it's
worth it.
180 sort of thing. But these are all like in that range of like anything below 70, which is and a great whiskey. You've got to try it.
Oh, for me, like, these are no-brainers. I mean, if you can pick the Sherry Oak up for £45, and we'll try and dig out the link if the offer's still on, I'd say, yeah, 100% snap it up, because you're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah, loved it. This I'm so happy when things deliver, like you want them, right? Fantastic. So well, it's been a enjoyable day, actually. We did a Port Charlotte episode, which is going to be out probably maybe by the time you watch this, maybe one after. Look out for that. I've had a fantastic time. Bottle Killer, take them out.
I was going to say, isn't that my line? Yeah, well, I've had a good time. I hope you've had a good time. Michael, have you had a good time?
Fantastic time.
He's had a fantastic time. And we'll see you next time on Bottle Kill TV. Okay, so what we did today was a little Laphroaig drink through. We started off with the standard 10-year-old. We then took it up a notch with the 10-year-old Cask Strength, which was batch number 13. And then we rounded things off with the 10-year-old Sherry Oak. Michael, why don't you tell everybody what you thought?
Yeah, I forgot how much I love the 10-year-old. So this gets a lot of stick for being 40%. The nose on this thing is wonderful.
Yeah.
So if you want to experience, if you're a noser, the 10-year-old is fantastic. And it's a sippable whiskey. It's great. The batch strength for me was a little bit underwhelming. It was like a thicker, stronger, punchier 10-year-old. Well, it was thicker, stronger, more viscous. Wasn't necessarily punchier. It was just more of the higher level of what you've got. The one that blew me away, Sherry Cask. Laphroaig fans, go get that Sherry Cask. That is a beauty.
Definitely. So going to be a bit of a challenge to do a 2-minute review of 3 whiskies, but starting off with the 10-year-old, I think the nose is lovely, sweet, smoky. It's got that salty maritime kind of character to it. And then moving into the palate, you've got some really lovely sweetness, vanillas from the bourbon cask balanced with that classic Laphroaig character. Slightly thin as well. And then obviously, like we say, taking it up with the Cask Strength, you go into something that's like really powerfully Laphroaig. It's got the classic TCP, antiseptic kind of notes, everything that you'd expect from Laphroaig. Really smoky, super rich on the palate, but like Michael said, it's probably just a kind of 3-dimensional. It's got the fruitiness, it's got the smoke, the earthiness, and some of the spice coming through in the finish. And then the star of the show, as we said, is the Sherry Cask. So what you'll notice when you pick up the Sherry Cask and you nose it is straight away you get the prominence of the Oloroso sherry, those classic Christmas cake flavours, the rich peels, the spices, and then the smoke starts to come through. And then the palate is completely different, where the smoke kind of really comes to the fore. You've got that beautiful Laphroaig character, but it's so well balanced with the sherry. Lovely and smooth, really rounded, and then a nice spicy finish with some kind of like clove, anise, dried fruits coming through. An excellent, excellent dram.
So I've spent years trying to escape the peat monster, right? But I tried to escape Islay this year. At the start of the year, I said we're gonna do classic bourbon casks. We're gonna move away from Islay, but it keeps dragging you back in, right? It's dragged me fully back in. Bruichladdich, Laphroaig, they're in their peak at the moment. Fill your boots.
Peat and sherry, that's where we're going. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.